It's Thursday, June 27th, and welcome to the New York Amsterdam News Podcast. I'm Cyril Josh Barker, coming to you from the offices of the New York Amsterdam News in Harlem. On this week's episode, our special guest is Miss Black New York USA, Shannon Nia Alomar, who is going to speak with us about her life as a beauty queen and her advocacy work with helping youth. At age 26, Shannon Nia Alomar is the reigning Miss New York USA. In August, she headed to Washington, D.C. to compete in the 2019 Miss Black USA pageant. Alomar wants to use her platform to end the school-to-prison pipeline, encourage meaningful rehabilitation of youth within the prison system, and enhance youth involvement activities. AmNews writer Vanessa Love sat down with Alomar to discuss her reign as Miss Black New York USA.
Okay, Shannon, so I know that you're wanting to use your platform to do a lot of advocacy work. What steps have you taken so far since you won the pageant?
So, just to give a little background on my platform, I entitled it Trample the Pipeline. And at the end of Trample, I have 3 E's. And the E's stand for ending the school-to-prison pipeline and encouraging meaningful rehabilitation of youth in the prison system and also enhancing youth involvement activities. So what I've been doing during my reign is I've been holding workshops for youth who are seen as at-risk youth. And I've been doing things to empower them, to let them know that they're more than their circumstances, they're more than their backgrounds. I really just want them to know that they are regular kids. You know, even though they have these stigmas attached to them, many of them come from low-income areas. I worked with girls in the foster care system, and I just want them to recognize that they are more than what society puts onto them. So that's the reason why I was attracted to work with the youth, and especially youth in the prison system.
Oh, wow, that's actually a really great platform, and I'm glad to see that you're doing something so great. So I know you said that you're definitely wanting to end the school to prison pipeline. And who are some of the other advocates that you've worked with to actually start this process?
Well, honestly, for my platform, it's been a lot of me doing work and going into the community, but I am connected to Cut 50, which is a national organization that's working to reduce the recidivism rate in the nation by 50% by the year 2021. So the recidivism rate, for people who may not know what that means, is basically it's the cycle that people go through when they become incarcerated. Okay. And for me, I noticed that a huge majority of those people who fall into that category started as youth offenders. So with Cut 50, I'm a part of their empathy network, which we're using empathy to try to change laws and actions and put out the stories of those who are impacted by the system in multiple ways. So I've been working with them to try to get my message out, but a lot of the work that I've done has been homegrown for myself.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And have you met any of the youths in particular that you're wanting to focus on, or a group that you're wanting to focus on?
Well, as I mentioned, I worked with girls at the Abbott House who are in foster care. And a lot of foster children also fall into that rate of the pipeline. Okay. So while I focus solely on the school to prison pipeline, there is a foster care to prison pipeline as well that kind of goes unmentioned and unnoticed. So I met with them. I have been working to get into a juvenile detention center to do my workshop. It's been a little bit of a struggle, a little bit of a pull and push, but I'm hoping before I head out to nationals in August, I'll be able to have my workshop there as well.
I hope you'll be able to have it there also. And are you trying to focus on any particular juvenile detention center, or?
No, I'm just looking within the city. I know I have had my eyes on horizons, but at this point, I just really want to be able to work with any center that's willing to have me.
Okay. Well, I definitely hope that you achieve that. It sounds like you're doing amazing work.
Thank you.
Now, I know you said earlier that this was your first pageant.
Yes, it is.
What was it like going into this pageant?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so my mother's side of the family is from the South. So pageant culture is huge in the South. Everyone wants to be a pageant queen with good reason. I mean, who doesn't want to be dressed up and look all pretty and glamorous all the time? So for me, I was never entered in pageants.
Okay.
New York State has a few pageant systems, but not as many as you would think. And I just took a leap of faith. I saw the Miss Black USA pageant through a YouTuber, believe it or not. I always tell people this. I'm true millennial fashion. A YouTuber that I watch her vlogs, she was running for Miss Black Georgia. Oh. And she was Miss Black Atlanta at the time. And she talked about her service that she did, the people she was able to meet. And it really attracted me. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take a leap of faith. We'll see what happens. And I applied, and now I am Miss Black New York USA, which is crazy. I still can't believe it, but that's been my experience so far. So this is my first pageant that I'm competing in, and it's a national pageant, so it's wild.
Oh, wow. And what were some of the rigors and obstacles that you had to overcome going into this pageant?
So for New York State, unfortunately for Miss Black USA, we don't have a state-level pageant at the moment, so I'm going in as a member at large. So what that means is that I'm going to represent the state in the national pageant, but I didn't have to go through a preliminary pageant to get my title.
Oh.
So at first that made me nervous because I said, okay, well, a lot of the other states, they have preliminary pageants, so they kind of get the experience and then they go to nationals. But I think that's just been a motivational force for me. It's just making me want to work harder to prove myself. A lot of the girls in the pageants has been doing pageant for years. So I'm like, okay, I'm a newbie and this is my first time and I'm going to just give it all I got. So,
and from seeing the other girls, were you ever intimidated? Did you have any doubts while you were competing against them?
You know, I don't want to say that I'm intimidated. A lot of the girls within my system are phenomenal, honestly. Like, we have lawyers in our group, we have teachers, we have business owners. It's incredible. All of us are women of color. We're all young. So in our system, in this particular range, we're 18 to 27. So people, some of the ladies are still in college. Some of us are in our careers. So it's a huge range of looking at all these phenomenal women of color from all across the nation. But I don't want to say that I'm intimidated because we are very supporting of each other.
Okay.
And the founder is very, very, very strong on Black women empowerment and us being there for one another. So throughout this process, we hype each other up. You see us on each other's social media pages like, yes, girl, you looking good today, queen. You better do it. So that's been our energy the entire time. So at this point, I'm just excited to meet my sister queens in August.
That's really good. Melanin popping all the time.
All the time, 24/7.
Well, that's good. So what do you think any of the women, or from your experience, did you, looking back now, do you think there's anything that you could have done differently or that you would want to do differently?
In terms of my reign?
In terms of the competition that led up to your reign.
Okay, so again, I didn't do a preliminary competition, but I will be competing in August. So that's going to be the national pageant. So just in terms of anything I would have did differently for my reign, because at this point my reign is coming to an end and I'm so sad. It's bittersweet, but I'm excited to see the next Miss Black New York. But I think something I would have done differently is just maybe try to travel upstate a little bit more, because I do represent the entire state of New York, which is huge.
This is true.
You know, and I'm a city girl, so of course we think the city is the whole world in New York, but there is upstate too. So I wish I would have done that a little bit more, but I'm hoping in the future that I can become a New York State director so that I'm able to help implement a New York State level pageant, so we can have that preliminary experience for the next New York State queens.
Oh, that would be a really great experience for the younger girls, or for just anyone that's attending.
And I think it's a great, foundation when you're going into the pageant, especially me being someone who's new. I think that would have helped me a lot to kind of get myself together. But I still don't count myself out. I'm like, I'm still going to give it my all. So, I'm excited either way.
And did you get any advice that you think propelled you into your winning or being the queen?
Wow. Did I get any advice? People just encourage me to go for it. I think a lot of the opportunities I've been afforded in life, I always say, and I'm very religious, so I don't want to offend anybody who's not, but I definitely believe that things that are for you, God will make a way for you to do it. And I just kind of took a chance, and I was like, we'll see what happens. And I don't want to say I doubt myself, but I don't think I recognize my full potential at times.
Okay.
So I said, I don't know if they're going to select me. Like, I don't have the experience. And they're probably going to be like, who this girl? But the best advice that I got from everyone in my circle and in my tribe, I call them, they just told me to go for it. And they said, look, the worst thing that can happen is no. And if no is the answer, then you just move on to the next thing. And if yes is the answer, this can transform your life. And that's exactly what happened. So.
Good. Well, I'm glad. Well, I can see and hear the transformations that you've been mentioning. And I know that you went to Hofstra.
Yes.
So what was your experience like there? Because I know, doing my research, I saw that in one word, you would describe Hofstra as metamorphic.
Yes, absolutely. So I went to Hofstra in 2011.
Okay.
And Hofstra, let me tell you, was my first choice school. No one was telling me I wasn't going to Hofstra. I didn't care how we were going to make it there. The tuition was crazy. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going. They were like, how? I don't know. I'm going to get there. I bought the sweater, the hoodie, and I would wear it to school. And a lot of people would say, well, how are you wearing the hoodie? You didn't even get accepted. I was like, look, don't worry about me. I got it. I'm getting there. So I fell in love with the school before I even visited, which sounds really wild to a lot of people. And they're like, how did you know that you love this? I said, I don't know. I just went online and I saw the programs and I saw how people described it. And I really fell in love with the school. When I visited the first time, it was a done deal for me. I'm like, I have to come here. You understand? So I remember my mom was telling me, my mom has always been super encouraging of anything that I put my mind to. She's like, as long as you work hard at it and you research and you know what you're talking about, go for it. So this was the one time she was like, Shannon, this tuition, like if you don't get a scholarship, I don't know how we're going to do this. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to find a way to get a scholarship. So I am super, super, super thankful for my HEOP program. So HEOP is the Higher Education Opportunities Program. Okay. And at Hofstra, they call it NOAA, which stands for New Opportunities at Hofstra. Okay. I was interviewed to be a student for the New Opportunities at Hofstra program. And that's how I ended up going to Hofstra. I went on a scholarship, and it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And when I got accepted, I'm not usually super like in your face with things, but I was like, see, y'all told me I wasn't going to Hofstra, and I am going. We are in there. We got a scholarship. I don't got to worry about it. And when I went to my NOAA summer program, because we have to go a few weeks before regular students start, and we have to do a summer program. Let me tell you, NOAA is like no other HEOP program, okay? I thought this was a normal standard of how people run their program, and I would ask other HEOP students, they're like, no, I don't know what y'all doing. But they were big on us learning our history. They were big on us learning Black history. They were big on us being immersed in our schoolwork. And for the 6 weeks that we were in the program, I didn't have my phone. What? We didn't watch TV. We didn't go on the internet. We did not do anything but learn, study, and talk to each other. That's all we had to do. Oh my gosh. And
millennials definitely need to help. Well, yep.
It was 17 of us. There were 7 boys and 10 girls, and all we had was each other. There were obstacles that they would throw at us, and we would have to figure it out together. We walked in 2 lines across the campus. I was one of the taller girls, so they put me on the boy line. I was very upset. But all of those things, all of the little things that they did taught us discipline. It taught us to be together. It taught us to work as a unit. We watched Eyes on the Prize every day. The theme song lives in my head. We watched every episode from start to finish, and if they caught someone sleeping, they would start over. But so we kept each other up, okay? I'm not trying to watch 55 hours of Eyes on the Prize and you sleeping, and now we got to start over. But all of those experiences through NOAA, I think, started my foundation for my Hofstra experience. They taught us that we can be and do whatever we wanted to do on that campus. And of course, our students are students of color. And my school was a predominantly white institution. So they said, look, if you want to start a new club, start a new club. You want to be the president of a club, be the president. You want to start up a new class, make it happen. You can do whatever you want to do. So we hit the ground running. My NOAA class, we hit the ground running. We were presidents in the first few months of us being there. We were shaking up campus. I was meeting the president of the university, the leaders, the deans, and by the time I hit my second semester, people knew me.
And this was when you were a freshman?
When I was a freshman. It was crazy.
Wow.
I joined the NAACP my second month there.
Oh,
I
wow.
was in it to win it. Like, I was like, look, my high school didn't have a lot of groups, so I really want to be a part of this experience. So, my first year as well, I won New Student of the Year for the entire university, which was an indescribable moment for me.
And has that ever been done before? Like, as far as you know?
Yeah, they've had it before. So they have it every year. It's a yearly thing that they do for new.
So this always happens to new students.
For new students, yeah, and you have to be voted upon, which I didn't know. I didn't know how this process worked. I was very confused. And when I went to the award dinner, me being the person that I am and never thinking things are about me, they were like reading my bio, and I'm like, wow, that sounds just like me. And they were like, she's from the Bronx, and I'm like, what? Who's from the Bronx? Like, and the next thing I knew, they said my name, and I was like, what? So that moment, I think, also was one of those shaping moments for me, because I came from high school where I was always kind of hiding in the shadows. I didn't really trust my voice. I always thought that someone else's opinion was always higher than mine. So for me to come in, a Bronx girl, like, that always just trips me up. A Bronx girl to this predominantly white institution, a scholarship recipient student who's being recognized on the entire scale of the entire campus, that was huge for me. So I think after having that experience, being a student leader all 4 years, being in different organizations, being able to go to conferences and different things of that nature, and helping bring in new generations for my scholarship program, that's why I always call Hofstra my Hofstra experience metamorphic, because that really shaped me into the woman that I am now. And I'm so thankful, highs and lows. I'm really thankful for that experience.
It sounds like you had a really amazing experience. And with Noah, is there anything in particular that you can say that stood out, or anything new that you may have learned about Black culture that you may not have known before?
Well, I would say that my family is very big on history as well. So that part of it wasn't shocking to me, but I think what really stood out to me was how much some of my other Noah brothers and sisters didn't know about Black history. Oh. And they said, we didn't watch stuff like this in my house, or like I didn't know that we did this, or we were the first to do this, or whatever. So I think that was always really interesting to me. And it taught me how important those lessons were that I learned at home. Sometimes your parents do things and you're like, oh my God, why are you always doing this? But it's important, it's really important. And we were really big on Sankofa, reaching back to look at your past to know where you're going for your future. And I think that was something that stood out to me immensely. And we did have, one of my Noah brothers was Caucasian. Oh. And it was always so funny, because anytime something would happen, everybody would look at him like, how do you feel about that? What do you think about this? How do you feel that this happened to us? And he's like, oh my God, like, I'm just here, like, trying to get my scholarship just like you. But that experience was really awesome. And he is one of the closest people to me now. And I think that watching his experience with that, and seeing how people reacted to him, and seeing how he took in and absorbed everything. He didn't talk a lot about things, but he would absorb it. That's and good. He went back, and now he works in higher education and is trying to work for students who are getting scholarships to go to these schools. So I think that was something great to see. And just seeing all of our journeys now and seeing where we are now, it's incredible.
And do you still keep in contact with any of your brothers and sisters?
I do a lot. Honestly, a lot of them, like, I can't go a day without speaking to. So we all keep up with each other. Like, some of us are not as close naturally, that happens. But some of them, I cannot see my life without them. And it's funny, when I was in my summer program, I thought it was good. I was like, look, I'm here for my scholarship. I don't know what y'all doing in here. They would have instances where they would tell us they were taking our chairs. So we had these 17 chairs. They were like the folding chairs. Okay. And we had it in our lounge. And your chair, you had to keep your chair. That was basically the premise.
Wait, you mean you had to have your chair with you at all times?
Not at all times, but like, you wanted to make sure you were able to sit in your chair. Okay. Like, that was the premise, So when things would happen, if like we weren't working together, or somebody might have gotten in trouble for something, they were like, well, I'm taking their chair. And we used to learn, like, well, if you take her chair, you're taking my chair.
Oh.
It took us a while to get there. Because in the beginning, I was like, well, you messed up. That ain't got nothing to do with me, girl. I'm trying to keep this scholarship $50,000. But at the end, we got the message. And they were trying to teach us that we have to work together as a collective. And they told us, when you're on this campus, people are going to put stigmas on you just because of how you look. And you guys need to have each other as a home base to come home to. So that's why they did the certain things that they did. In the time, I did not understand it. But now I understand it. It makes perfect sense.
And did you experience anything that might have deterred you? Because I know you really like your university.
Yes, but yeah.
But did anything happen to you on the campus, or did someone say anything that may have offended you?
Yes, absolutely. I tell people all the time, I loved my Hofstra experience, but there's a realism to it. You know, I still am a black woman on this campus trying to figure out myself, and there were people who doubted me. There were people who said really wild things to me. I know I had one classmate who was like, you don't act like black girls. Or like, I didn't think you were going to be this type of black girl. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And for some students at my campus, as surprising as it sounds being in a New York university, their experience, I was like one of the first black people they've ever had an experience with. You know, people are coming from all over the nation to go to this school, and even internationally. So for them, I may have been that first black girl that they met, you know? So they're used to seeing things on TV, and they're like, oh, well, this is how black girls act. And I'm coming in, I'm like, hi, I'm Shannon. Like, they're like, what? You're not the black girl I thought you would be. And I was also a student, a welcome week leader. So a lot of times I was the first student that freshmen met. I also worked with the international students. So sometimes I was that first person they had an interaction with. But I know I had one particular circumstance that I will never forget for all of my days, with a particular professor. And oh my glory goodness, this man would erupt me to my core. Like, I could not. Anyway, so I had two standout experiences with him. The first experience was I was in a journalism class. So journalism was my major, and we were selecting our beats. So for anyone who may not know what beats are, they're your topics that you work on. And he was selecting them, and he was like, well, this is like, you could work on housing or education or whatever. It just so happened that the three kids of color in my class, which was including me, we all wanted to do education. We didn't talk about this. We just all loved education. So he came up to us after and was like, come on, guys. And we were like, what? And he was like, I can't put you all on the same beat. And we were like, what are you talking about? And he said, I can't have all of you on the same beat. And I wasn't as vocal at that time. But another girl who's in my group, she was like, it's not my fault that your white students don't care about education. And he just like looked taken aback. And it's like, why do you look shocked when you know exactly what you were saying, you know? So we ended up doing education together. All three of us. We were like, I don't know what you want to do. None of them wanted to do it. So that was my first instance with him. A second instance with him, I was in a communications fraternity while I was in school. It was called Zeta Phi Eta, which is funny because I'm now in Zeta Phi Beta. So it's a whole thing. But the communications fraternity was called Zeta Phi Eta. So we had jackets. We had letters on our jackets. And I would wear my jacket to school because, of course, it was cold in the buildings and whatever. So I wanted to do an independent study on Greek culture at Hofstra because there was a lot of situations going on where we were hearing rumors that they were trying to end Greek life at Hofstra altogether. Oh. It didn't come to fruition. It was rumors, but I wanted to just look deeper into why that might have been. Okay. So I told him this is the independent study that I want to do. And he told me flat out, he was like, your black sorority sisters may want to talk to you, but the white kids aren't going to want to talk to you.
So that was a preconceived notion that he had.
Yeah. And I told him, I was like, first of all, this is a communications fraternity. So it's not a black sorority. And I said, second of all, a lot of my brothers in my fraternity are Caucasian. So they speak to me all the time. I made it into the fraternity. So clearly I'm doing something right here. So I definitely had experiences like that. People saying sly things to us. People would say sly things about my scholarship program too. And we heard, things that they used to say about Noah back in the day. So they would call it N-words on a handout.
What?
Yeah. Luckily, no one ever said that to us. Because some of my non brothers and sisters are turned up. But we did hear about that. That was the thing that they taught us. They said, this is how people look at you, and we don't want you to accept that as the truth, but we want you to know that that's out there. So I did have some experiences like that I had to get past. But I just feel like it makes you stronger. It makes you a totally stronger person, and it helps you to deal with things that come after college and just life in general as being a black woman or man in America.
So. That's really good. And even in New York, this is happening. Have you noticed anything? Because you said you're from the Bronx.
Yes.
So, have you ever noticed any kind of maybe cultural clashes, like maybe a Hispanic or a black or a Caucasian? Like, do you notice anything
in my neighborhood? I wouldn't say that it's a huge culture clash. I know growing up, and also just my background too, I'm African American and Puerto Rican, so I'm like the perfect blend of the Bronx. But I don't think I ever noticed clashes per se, but I know that for me growing up, I did notice that I looked different than most kids who were my same mix. So a lot of my friends who were African American and Puerto Rican were fair skinned. So for me, I was darker, and I'm like, well, why am I darker? And we're made of the same things, and it doesn't make any sense to me. So that was something that I kind of dealt with, of like, well, you can't be Puerto Rican. Like, when I tell people that, they're just like, no, you're just black. And I'm like, well, Puerto Ricans are black. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. But they wouldn't think that I was mixed with any type of Hispanic blood for whatever reason, because of how I looked. And I'm like, well, Hispanic people are people of color. We come in all shades.
And slaves went everywhere.
Hello, like, thank you. Everywhere. I don't understand. That's why I'm like, let me not even get into the history lessons. But I don't think I've ever noticed anything that was super stand out in terms of cultural clashes. And that's one thing that I always loved about living in New York City, is that we're so diverse.
Yes.
So I think that really helps to shape us too when you're raised in the city.
Good. And being a city girl, do you think you would live anywhere else besides New York?
No. As I've gotten older, I've considered it, but I couldn't see myself anywhere else. Like I said, my mom's side is from the South. So I used to go down there often, and I loved going for vacation. I didn't want to stay there. And my cousins talk so slow, and everything's so slow. And I'm like, where are we going today? Oh, we going to Walmart. Walmart? Like, what? That's where y'all hang out? And they were serious about their Walmart now. I don't want to offend them. But I used to love going there, but I could never see myself staying there. And anytime I travel, like, I love going to different places, but I'm like, there's no place like New York. And I remember when I went to college, I told myself, I'm never coming back to the Bronx. I'm getting out of here. And now I'm still in the Bronx. And I love it there, and I can't see myself anywhere else. So I don't know. I don't think so. Not at this time, though. Maybe later. But not right now.
Well, I mean, you never know.
That's true.
Life takes, like you said earlier, if it's meant to happen, God will
That's
let it
true.
happen.
That's so true. So we'll see.
And if you could say one of life's strongest lessons that your mom ever taught you, just one thing that you would live by for the rest of your life, what do you think that lesson would be?
Oh my goodness. Just one?
Yep, because moms are amazing. They have a lot of
Seriously. Sometimes they just be sprinkling gems in your life, and you're like, what? But I just asked to pass the salt. What? Okay. Wow, that is a great question. I think the greatest lesson my mom taught me was to just be myself. And it sounds really cliche. It sounds really simple. But I know throughout my entire life, I used to kind of not curtail, that's not the word I'm looking for. I used to try to compress my personality. Let's put it that way. I was always super goofy and silly. I still am. I don't care now. Okay, when you're in middle school and high school, you're like, I'm trying to be cool. I don't care. Look, I'm a goofball. Okay, but my mom always would tell me, Shannon, you have to be your authentic self. That's when you attract the opportunities that are meant for you. Mm-hmm. When you're trying to be someone else, you attract things that aren't meant for you, and then you're unhappy. You may not be where you want to be, but you drew that into your life by being someone who you're not supposed to be. So, like I mentioned earlier, anything that I wanted to do, my mom was always like, as long as you research it, you learn the ins and outs of it, you can do it, you know, if you have the potential to do it. So I think that was just the biggest thing that she taught me. I wanted to be in Destiny's Child when I was younger. I was serious. Could I sing? No. Did I think I could sing? Yeah. And when I told her that, she said, okay, you want to start a girl group? Learn everything you need to know about the music industry. Learn about royalties, learn how you got to get tracks made, how do you produce your music, how do you get it out into the world, all that stuff. I was in the library every day because I knew I was the next Beyonce girl. I knew it. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but it was going to happen. So I think those lessons that she instilled in me from a younger age, it just always connected. Everything that she's ever said to me always connected to me being myself. So,
good.
Thanks, Mama.
Well, she did a really great job.
Oh, my God, thank you. It's my best friend.
Well, most moms are.
I love her.
Okay, and so I'm just going to jump right back to the beauty pageant real quickly.
Please do.
If you could give advice to any young black girls that would like to be a part of Miss Black USA in the future, what would that advice be?
Okay. I always exhale because I'm like, choose your words wisely. Honestly, this experience so far has taken me over the moon when it comes to me seeing young girls of color. I've gone to a lot of schools all across the city to just speak at career days or just talk to them in general. And the way that their face lights up when they see me, it's so weird for me because in my mind, I'm like, who am I? Like, why are you getting like this? But I understand the representation of seeing a black woman with a crown and a sash on and saying, I'm representing the state on this level. You know, it's huge. So I would tell them to go for it, first and foremost. If this is something that you want to do, if this is a dream of yours, if this is something that you're interested in, go for it. Do the research on it. Make sure it aligns with you. There's a lot of different pageant systems, which I've learned through this experience.
Yes, there are.
But you have to find the one that works for you. And the reason why Miss Black USA stood out to me is because of the service element. Because they are big on upping women of color. And they tell us, use your voice to uplift the things that you're serious about and that you're passionate about. And that really, really stood out to me. So any young girls who hear this or see me or meet me, I always tell them, if this is what you want to do, go for it. And I went to a festival on Sunday, and this girl posted a picture of me like 2 seconds after I walked away from her. And she put one day, and I commented, and I was like, if this is what you want, and one day it will be yours. And she was like, oh my God, thank you. And I'm like, you're welcome. But I just want them to be encouraged, you know. And I know I always say, too, be the superhero or be the role model that you needed when you were growing up. And I know if a queen walked in my classroom, it would forever shape my life, you know. So I would tell them, go for it, be yourself. And if you're passionate about something, use your voice to uplift that.
Good. And so as far as your advocacy work, I really hope that you are able to be successful in everything.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you today for being here with us and just sharing all your experiences.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. Let me chat because I could talk. So thank you for providing me the platform to do so.
That was AmNews writer Vanessa Love with Miss Black New York USA, Shannon Nia Alomar. That concludes this week's podcast. You can pick up the latest edition of the New York Amsterdam News on newsstands and get updates online at amsterdamnews.com. You can also keep up with us on Facebook at NY Amsterdam News and follow us on Twitter at NY AmNews. I'm Cyril Josh Barker. Thanks for listening.